I think today I want to speak of that phenomena of easily recognizing something's doing for you what you couldn't do for yourself, but not recognizing something did through you what you would never have done by yourself. I don't think that's just a phenomena. I believe it's the strategy of the sort of the parasitical movement. It's so blatant. Uh, so I've been getting a number of people have been getting in touch with me about that. So I figured we should throw that log on the fire.
I think
Yeah. Hmm?
it's a good one. It's a great topic.
Well, yeah, because a lot of times we have a community, so you can see a pattern of how the birds migrate and how they form. Like if you're looking at one starling, you're never going to see those patterns they put up in the sky when they're all flying together. But you can see a pattern when there's many of them, and you don't see the pattern with one. And we have that incredible camaraderie, like it or not, having been defeated by the same sort of activity. So, like they talk about the giant boat going under, and then we find ourselves on the road on the lifeboat, but we were all on the other boat. Yeah. And this is sort of it's cool in a way. It adheres you. And then seeing that it's a mental activity, it's more difficult than, oh, the thing strikes me in my elbow and then moves down to the wrist and then goes to the third finger. It doesn't have that kind of, you're not looking at it as a thing. So you have to see its activity, its movement, what it does, because even the idea of self defeating us, we don't see that. We see it through its manifestations. Yeah. So by doing the inventory of self's manifestations in our life, it implies the cause of it, and they give it the name self. Yeah.
Right.
But it's obviously because of its mental origin, it's using what we rely on just habitually to sort of prevent us from seeing it. Yeah. While it's in its little doing its thing. And so in the community, it's important to point out some of these patterns because you will feel it individually, but it became obvious through recognizing how many of us end up at the same three parking spaces, institution, jails, and death. And then hopefully that produces a curiosity about the origin of the problem and where it abides and how it defeats us. Because obviously it may be constrained now, but it's not completely gone in a way. Yeah. The problem will not exist for you, but that's presented as a day at a time condition. I've seen a lot of people get very surprised when they went back out after 20 years and stuff, because your memory can't do it justice how it feels like when you have that urge to fucking act out. Yeah. And it's sort of like a knock, knock, knock on the door. You can't do that justice by remembering, what it was like. It's when it becomes what it's like now, it's fucked. Yeah. And people will be sitting at a meeting, and they've been sitting at tons of meetings. And then I remember I was at one and this lady just screamed out, I want a drink. Yeah. She hadn't sat in a meeting with that urge for almost 20 years. Now she went back out and the urge was there. Yeah. So I feel like hmm, if we're here, the potential of the problem to be here is available. Yeah. Yeah. Hmm. So That's always amazed me where, because it was easy for me, maybe it hasn't been that easy, but on the, on the stage of life, it was obvious no human power could get me sober, because there was a lot of human power that wanted to get me sober. My family, the state, other things. I mean, there was a lot of people who had a real interest in me getting sober or staying sober, and nothing could do it. Incarceration, living in programs, it could suspend something for a while, but once I left the protective uh, conditions, I was easy prey. Yeah, and that always just produces a lot of curiosity in me. I just was like, you know, uh, yeah, how does self defeat us through its manifestations? What's the initial recognition of that whole statement, which is, I call resentment mine? Yeah. I mean, that's the verification of what we just said before. I mean, it's not like you have to go to page 500 in an esoteric book somewhere in a cave in Tibet. It's obvious. If you have the ears to hear and the eyes to see, it's basically says it in the big book that self is what has defeated us through its manifestations. And then how do we talk about self's manifestations? We call them ours. I mean, this isn't like an 8-hour diagnosis. It's like right off the bat, you can see it. Yeah. Uh, I don't know. So what causes it to be so uh, unrecognizable? I think it's like an act, like an octopus with the, jetting out the purple fucking, smoke screen to take off. Yeah. Uh, I feel that's what the head is doing in a lot of cases. And we find ourselves in a cognitive dissonant thing. That which we're relying on is still infected with the problem. Yeah. It is actually the source of it. So, yeah. We believe also that the problem progresses, but we don't give that same characteristic to the solution. Well, I believe recovery progresses. As long as you don't get in the way of it, it's going to progress. It is. Yeah. Just another day of sobriety is a progression. Yeah. But I mean, it's going to progress in a lot of ways if we don't get in the way of it. Yeah. Maybe the best way not to get in the way of it is see that which is getting in the way of it is not you, and bring that activity of getting in the way of it to step 6 and 7 and have it re-fucking configured and extract the gold that's in there and dismiss and recycle the other shit. Yeah. And then that which is given over to the process of 6 and 7 comes back as a larger field of being aware of what's your present state. Yeah. Like feeling on from the spirit in us. Yeah. And what better way to know that you're a spiritual condition is to feel it, a spiritual condition. Yeah. Why do I want a middleman or a middlewoman called my head to tell me what a spiritual condition is and what it looks like? I much rather have a sense feltness of it. Yeah, that just puts the end of all the academics, and I'm just traveling lighter. Yeah. And I know what's the cause of that traveling lighter, and I also know what caused the traveling heavy. And there's a clarity around it to the point I'm not looking for new answers. Yeah. The answers that I've run into are perfectly okay. They work. One-on-one level of living as a person here, and on another level, recognizing what's true. Yeah. They work on both sides. AA gave me a way to face life successfully as an action figure. I couldn't do that. It gave me a principle that, because when this head was managing my life, it always led me to having to be managed by others. Life intervened. I had to go to a program or went to jail or went into the hospital. There were constant interventions going on by life itself. And I was still stubbornly just keeping on, keeping on. I mean, life was trying to put the brakes on it a lot. Yeah. And I just could not read the tea leaves, or something didn't want me to read the tea leaves until I got struck sober. It came to that. I wasn't going to get it. Something had to just like suddenly intervene to such a point that it not only whacked me, it introduced me to a way of life that allowed it to extend that miracle. Yeah. 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 So who's better, or what's better than to a person who has gone through this all and has recognized the exact nature of the wrong, and you can see the habitual alliance to it by, you hear the manifestations of self or what has defeating us, and we keep talking and sharing it as if they're ours. I mean, I don't know how you can argue that. It just seems like, all right, I just read the sentence, and the next moment I'm speaking about a manifestation of selves, I present it as mine. I mean, do we have to go further with the diagnosis? I don't think so. It's just, there it is. Yeah. And then it gets passed on. How many people did an inventory based on these were my manifestations? I did, and I passed it on to a lot of people, and I think that can continue. But we need sort of an add-on to, after we take responsibility, to see what's truly accountable for the defeat, and it's not called Paul. Paul was the vehicle of the defeat, yeah? But Paul was not the defeater. Paul was the defeated, in a sense, yeah? So you can get clear, yeah. So take responsibility and then look, because if you've done fifth steps and you've heard other people, I mean, it's really not that much different. It isn't. They have different nouns and locales, but basically it's the same. And then you're like, because you don't have any interest in its obscuring itself from the other person, you can be clear, but you can't be clear about the same shit in you. What's the fuck? I don't understand. Yeah. So there's got to be an active veiling, or like a stealth like agency that's used in us. Because I can be very clear about someone else's problem and I can't see the one I'm in, so to speak. Yeah, it's insane. It's incredible. So that's why I have the joy of being here. I love it. I love to point it out without having to debate it with people or fight off this isn't AA and all this stuff. I really get tired of that. Yeah. I mean, if you brought the goods, I would surrender to your ideas, but I don't see it. I don't want to have 40 years of sobriety and still be bonded to the past based on what I thought I did under the influence. I don't. When someone's talking to me and I see that huge umbilical cord, I lose interest in what they're saying. I just do. I just don't want to, I'm not into it. I don't want to manage the manifestations of self better. I don't. I rather outgrow them. Yeah. And outgrowing them is ownership, really. Yeah. I stopped calling self's manifestations mine. Yeah. And I see resentment in a completely different light. And when you see a resentment in its wild version, it doesn't last long. Yeah. If you don't act on it, it usually dissipates. Unfortunately, in America, if you act on it, there can be guns, So then I just read about some people, they had a little thing in Southern Cal, a little car scraping. They pulled up into a parking lot, and they both had guns, and one guy had two young kids in the back, and they shot each other, and they both died. Yeah. Now, if that gun wasn't in the glove compartment, maybe that resentment would have passed, or maybe they would have punched or yelled or whatever. But no, yeah, termination. So, but my resentment can be fostered and given life and breathed into and groomed and cultivated, and it can grow unbelievably in my little greenhouse up in the head. And they it's insane. And if you see, how now you see these fruits, they look like the centerfold for a fruit Playboy magazine or something. They look incredible, but they don't have any taste. It looks like the greatest strawberry, but there's no taste in it. Yeah, or the greatest this. We have it here. There's this company, I don't want to name them, but coming from back east, we used to live on bagels. Bagels were a big staple. And then they have these bagels out here that look like the greatest bagel. They look like those big tires they have on the bikes now. Beautiful, and there's sesame and poppy, and then you cut it, and it's like a dinner roll in disguise. Yeah, it doesn't have any taste of a bagel, but it looks like the greatest bagel. Yeah, yeah. So I don't know where I'm going with that, but what I'm saying is, I something intervened, and I saw self as foreign to me, and that view hasn't changed in now 30 years. It's withstood a lot of people attacking me, trying to argue with me, saying they're traditional recovery and I'm something else or whatever. It's insane, some of the shit that I've run into. But nothing has moved me from this point, because it brought about a real relief, yes, from the problem. And I figure, if it brings me that much relief from the problem, it must have been a pretty clear diagnosis, because a lot of the other shit didn't really work that well. Yeah, so there you have it. We presented based on page 64, being convinced, which is our role in it. Our role is to be convinced. Yeah, our role is not to produce the solution. It's not to fight the problem. It's to be convinced of what? Self, manifested in various ways, is what has defeated us. Simple, very concise. There's two words in there in the one sentence. One is seemingly the doer of, and one is the done to. We're in the done to camp, but we also are identified as the doer of it. Yeah, but really we're the done to. We are the defeated, and this idea of self has defeated us. So this idea that we're self is, you're the one that's getting knocked out, and you're blaming yourself for the knockout. It's fucking insane to me, but whatever. Okay. Being convinced, self manifested in various ways. Oh, well, various ways? Yes, various ways. Do you want to go over? There's a 453 various ways self can manifest and defeat you. Let's go with just the common ones. The top three: resentment, fear, being driven to step on other people's toes in the pursuit of what you want. And then we look at our sexual behavior to see just that. Okay? These are the three common manifestations of self that all of us have weathered that storm of the defeat. All right, let's take a look at it. Tell the truth. Right? All right, do a 4-column inventory. Pretty easy. Once you can do one through the 4 columns, you can do 800 of them, or 50 or whatever. And hopefully, as we are first given, is to see your role in things. And hopefully after you do that, maybe go back and see self's role in things, because self is what has defeated us. And now you're convinced of that. Yeah. what's going to happen if that shit that was on the neighbor's lawn wasn't delivered to the neighbor's lawn by you? It was delivered to the neighbor's lawn by your dog. Are you going to be going over that for 30 fucking years? If it's very clear the dog took the shit, it wasn't you. Probably not. Yeah. You cleaned it up. You walked your dog another way now, over. You never fucking think about it again. But if you were the one who took the shit, why did you take the shit? You'd maybe go to a therapist to go over. My family come the origin of the shitters of whatever, and on and on and on and on. Just this is obsession with self, I feel. Really. It's just a fucking field day of thinking about you. All right. Take responsibility and then maybe look at the inventory with accountability and allow the accountability like a magnet or like an iron filing to be pulled to the real cause, which is self. Yeah. And just see what happens. And maybe now that you've made all your amends, you've taken all your, responsibility, you start calling a spade a spade. Yes. Mostly these things that are driving us into a state of defeat or discomfort or irritability or restlessness are not from us. They're from this foreign activity called self. Yeah. Yeah. Pretty good, pretty clear. Go to it. Practice the program, do service, use these principles so you can learn you can face life successfully, because your head has it that you can't and you shouldn't and you're not going to be successful. And all this faith in the head keeps you paralyzed. Yeah, we're going to now have a somewhat, the faith is going to move into the infinite. Yeah, and here you go. Maybe you'll have 36 years. Maybe you'll have just right now and ease and comfort that you can actually come to a Zoom without going to the bathroom every 10 minutes to do fucking something, and actually be at this Zoom and, not looking at your watch and I got to, yeah, no. You have enough peace that you can sit still for a little while, and hopefully we can share this loving presence that's expressing itself through our group conscience right now. Yeah, yeah. So there you have it. If you come back next week, it's the same, literally. If you come back 10 years from now, it's the same. If you went back 30 years, there's probably CDs of things we did 30 years ago. It's the same, basically. I may have gotten clearer about the problem, but I'm not clearer about the solution. The solution is the solution, and there is a solution. Yeah. And right where you think you find the problem, the solution is right there. Yeah, yeah. Hallelujah. Yeah. You won. You won the prize. You already are a spiritual condition. What? Oh, yes. Rick Rowe, come up here. You already are a spiritual condition. What? Yes. But my head doesn't say I am. Yeah, I know it doesn't, because that's a mental condition. The physical condition doesn't give a shit because it's just there. Yeah. Tell me something new. The mental has been using the physical unbelievably. Unbelievably. So this physical is going to do a whole lot better when the mental ain't running the show. It is. I swear to God. The funniest thing, the spirit, which is an unembodied whatever, actually is the best cultivator for the physical. Yeah. You won't be obsessed with fucking, one pimple on your nose leading to adult acne for the rest of your life. None of this. Yeah. It's just, yeah. Things will be put into a better proportion. You're not nothing, but you're all that you think about. That's going to change. Yes. All this shit. All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks for putting up with me. Mm. If you have any shares or whatever questions, this is not an AA meeting. This is just members sharing something that has proven quite helpful, at least where I'm sitting. And trying to reinforce it and learn a lot about self instead of having self learn about something. We're going to learn about self. And what you're going to learn about self is it's not you. Fantastic. Yeah. It's very hard to lose interest in something that you think is you. But when it's not you, you lose interest pretty quickly. And then you enter the realm of St. Francis, of the self-forgetting. It's through self-forgetting that you're reborn. Yeah. Yeah. It's through self-forgetting. Yeah. All right. I don't know who's running the show. I thought I did.
No hands up so far.
Oh, it's Martin. Okay. Nice to hear from you. No. All right. Well, I rest my case. And then there's a lot of people that are very good. I mean, they can go over, they can tell you how many periods there are in the text or how many commas and the importance of words. And you can go to the dictionaries are great. When I looked up seemingly, which is a very incredible word in the in whatever that preamble, where it says we are 100 men and women who have recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. Years and years ago, I looked up seemingly, and one of the definitions was it appears to be true or false to you. Wow. Sounds just like the false evidence appearing real. Yeah. So false evidence is appearing real to you. False evidence does not appear real. It appears real to you, to me. Yeah. And that is not just like a by chance. It's that program. Yeah. Something is presenting false evidence and it's appearing real to us. And then we make decisions based on that false evidence or self, and it sets off trains of circumstances that may bring us misfortune we feel we don't deserve. So now we're more pissed off. Yeah. It's all there. The diagnosis of the first conception and its first, like, a baby being born, and the first thing is they slap them on the ass, whatever. In the big book, they have the diagnosis of the conception of self and its first movements. Yeah. There's decisions based on it, which is you must be hearing it, and that's in the head where it resides. Those decisions set off trains of circumstances. They're not your decisions, but you're going to be beholden to them because you believe they're your decisions, but they're self's decisions. So self, aka you, makes a decision, sets off action. Those actions produce consequences, and we're not happy with the consequences. Yeah. Yet we go back to what caused these consequences and we rely on it once again. And therefore it keeps happening and happening and happening. And we're stuck in this little loop because we can't discern the difference between us and self. Yes? We can't, it seems. So we need an intervention, and the program plays that role. It can put a stop to this, at least fundamentally, by being in a place or whatever where you can't act out as much as you used to. But this program and this community will help you cold turkey this this thing and be relieved of the bondage of self. Sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly, but it's always going to materialize if you work for it. And a lot of the working for it is not working for it. It's just receiving it. So it says it's all over the book. They tell you exactly what happens. The self-centered person could be virtuous and kind, could be like he's very nice to everyone, but there's a transactional view of that, and he's expecting to get something. Have you ever had someone who has done something for you and it presents it as there's no expectations, but then the expectations of your behavior changing leak in? And there's been like all these hidden hooks, and now the hooks are becoming the most important part of the transaction. Have you ever run into that when you had no place to go or something and you were dependent on someone else and they took it as an advantage? Yeah. This is just mimicking what the head fucking does all the time. So being convinced self-manifested in various ways has defeated us. If we are now going to look at its common manifestations, and then it goes to resentment, and then it goes to fear, and then it goes to, the sexual arena, because that's where a lot of times you're going to step on people's toes to get what you want. Yeah. So it's not only to concentrate on sex, we're looking at the sexual arena to see this form of behavior that's driven by self, where you become incredibly inconsiderate and and very dishonest. Yeah. Because you're self-seeking and frightened, and you're selfish, seemingly. That's what's driving you. And then we have all the results and all the shit that comes about, and it keeps on repeating itself, but it's actually set off on the journey by false evidence appearing real. The head says something, we believe it. It's not true, but it's like a prophecy that verifies itself. Yeah. This is called bondage of self. In other words, you could go somewhere else, but you don't, because you're bound to this thing. Yeah. You could reach 12 feet, because you have the ability to, but what you're wearing only allows you to reach 6 feet. Yeah. So you're now bound by this idea of self, bound. Yeah. Like wearing an uncomfortable pair of pants or shit. Yeah. Like if you make a mistake and you're thinking it's going to be cooler than it is, and you wear long pants, and you're fucking wondering, and it's uncomfortable driving and shit, because you didn't recognize, you didn't hear the right forecast, and you could have worn shorts. Yeah. This is like an example. Oh, it's okay, but no, you're stuck to this fucking car seat and shit like that. It's uncomfortable. Well, we've adapted to this incredible, uncomfortable condition of being directed and led by a fucking insane thing. Yeah. At the expense of relationships, physical, mental, emotional health, and all this. Yeah. And no matter what, you take credit or blame for the shit you did while under the influence, when basically you were driven, you were used for transportation. Yeah. When are we gonna be relieved of that? How many mea culpas can you do? Yes. On and on and on. Yeah. So, yeah, if no one wants to share, this thing can start. It's almost as when you're in an early morning and the sun coming up. The light fills up the space slowly sometimes. Yeah. Well, to me, when I came into AA and I heard people talk about the disease, it made fucking sense to me. Yeah. And it went somewhere deeper than the first surface. And then when I kept hearing people share, uh, and then after I was about 6 months sober or something, and I sort of got caught in one of the first amends that I was involved with. Yeah. Someone walked into a situation where I was trying to impress some girl, and also the guy who was my friend riding motorcycles and shit. And some lady who I had done something to, I didn't recognize, came into the room and said, "Hello, Paul, don't you remember me?" I say, "No." She said, "You owe me $500. Yeah. Now, you would think I would have felt really guilty and embarrassed, but I had gotten the idea of the disease. And I said to her, "What I did to you, I would have done to anyone else, unless you could have physically stopped me." That was like a caveman understanding, but I was getting it. I was starting to get the message that something used me for transportation. And no matter how heinous the act was, my role in it was more of a utensil than the fucking hand that drove the stake in. Yeah. Wow. And then that idea opened up something more and more, because when I saw the thoughts that were driving me as alcoholic thoughts, they stopped driving me as much. Yeah. And then that opened even more, and I realized most of the thoughts aren't mine. Yeah. And then I started questioning this idea of my this, my that. And I'll tell you, there's a lot of space in there. Yeah. And I started to get relief from exactly where the problem resides, which is in the mind. I started to get relief from the fucking mind. Yeah. That which was constantly yapping to me about a lot of stuff. Yeah. And where I came out of, man, to be relieved of that and to be continually relieved of that is nothing less than a miracle. And I think it fits many of us in these squares. Yeah. Yeah. And I stopped
We
playing.
have two
Hold on.
hands up.
All
Sorry
right.
for the question. First one up is Rico.
Martin, thank you for your loving service. Hey, Paul, you know, I don't have a question. I have a comment on an experience I had. You know, when you are fortunate enough to be sitting in a satsang where the facilitator is like hitting home run after home run after home run after home run consistently, crystal clear. The only way I could ever have a question when I recognize truth is that the ego voice wants to say something.
Yeah.
That was
Yes.
the question. So thank you for what you shared today.
But Rico, also, the beauty of it is, even that's going to be used by the loving presence. So questions will lead into some other really cool places. So everything has value. It's not that it has value, it's given value. And we're in a condition, this grace of recovery, that everything can be given value. Our worst defeats has value. A stupid question leads to a lot of good stuff. So this is the beauty of it. Yeah. It's the beauty of it is, this is a thing, a phenomena you hear a lot, where people have an idea of the worst thing that ever happened to them was the night they got pulled over and they went to jail and their kids were there in the car or whatever. And, the head builds a huge maybe story, like a fucking statue about that. And then they come into recovery. And after a few months, they recognize that worst thing that ever happened to them was the best thing that ever happened to them.
Absolutely.
Yes? Because this whole place is a subjective event, and it's all seemingly so. And where you can't see value, something else does. And to me, that's the reliance on the higher power. The higher power sees value throughout everything. We have the system of what we think is valuable and a lot of ideas about what's not valuable, which are going to be confronted by the program of recovery. It is. You're going to see you don't have a fucking any idea what's going on. Yeah. So
I like the way you say about value, attaching value to everything. As a line, a lesson in the Course of Miracles, they talk about everything as a lesson God would have me learn. So I guess
yes,
everything has value. So I like that. Thank you.
everything has value. Your greatest, like in the Course, your greatest successes are your greatest failures. Yeah. And so what was your actual greatest failure? Your greatest failure was getting out of self. Truly. When I was shooting coke, my agenda was to get out of self. And I would put my life on the line. I really would. I would overdose purposely. Yeah. And our greatest failure was trying to get out of self. Hallelujah. Yeah, because finally we realized we were not in self. We're not of self, we're not in self, we're not as self. Yeah. So this has been my greatest success. My greatest failure has been my greatest success, because it brought me to realize I'm not that idea of self. Because we have it all in our community. Self can't get out of self. Yet no one we don't listen to that. We think we're going to be the first one. I'm back to tell you, I got out of self. Yeah, no. Yep. So there's the greatest failure. And I mean, we can learn a whole lot. Yeah, we can. Uh, don't you see the head is in the act of being identified as self? Go in the vault of memories. How are you remembered? You're remembered as a body. You're remembered as the doer, the thinker, the feeler, the taster, the toucher. You're always pictured as a body when you're worried about in the future and the past. What more do you need to know? Have you ever seen a body successfully having a spiritual condition? No. They go to the gym, they get robes, they grow their hair long, they start changing their cadence, they speak in a soft monotone, still a fucking body. Yeah. Uh, the thing that self hates the most is self can't get out of self. It has such a desire to get out of self, and it can't do it. Yeah. Now, you can be the stage of that, which I was. I was the stage of self trying to get out of self for years. Unfortunately, my mother had to watch that play, and a lot of people that loved me had to watch that play. But I was just a prop. And basically, self was trying to get out of self. Yeah. And it wanted to be there to experience it. It was just, and there was no teaching it otherwise. It just never got it. It never gets that it can't get out of self. It just keeps trying. It'll use spirituality, it'll use sex, food, money, this, that, dude, that, the one fails, it doesn't see there's no value in it, in the failing. It doesn't get it. It just skips to another activity. Yes. And then it fails and it keeps, and it just doesn't learn because it's not AI, it's a program. The program cuts off. It's not growing. The program is defined. It's a failed system called self-centeredness. They says it right in the book. Why are we in so much fear today? Isn't it because self-reliance has failed us? How much more do you need to know? Yeah. Self-reliance has failed us. Does that mean it's going to keep failing you? I gather so, yes. Did it fail us? Yes. Is it going to? Yes. Is it now? Yes. I guess it's failed. Yes.
I
Yeah.
guess I forgot when you told me early on that no human power would be able to relieve me what I suffered from. And one of the things I suffered from was I can't get out of self.
Yes. Yes.
I tried anyway.
I tried and I tried and tried and tried. Man, if thought and effort would have worked, I would have done it because that was a lot of thought and effort, a huge amount, and I would put up with a lot of shit. If you ever got into cocaine addiction, most of the time sucks. Yeah. It does. You're just fucking over anxious. You're fucked up. You're just too wired. It's only the rush because the rush is like an exhilarating belief you can get out of something. So you figure if you have a big enough rocket booster, you're gonna get out. So bammo, and then you're still there, and it's so fucking deflating. But you don't know what else to do, so you do a shot quicker. And after a while, the shots of Coke get closer and closer. There's no enjoyment because they failed. You can't get out. You're trying to blow yourself out of something. It didn't work. Yeah. Because we had never been in it. Never. Never. So I just kept getting super heavy duty rocket fuel and I'm going to fucking take off tonight. And the cops would greet me about a half hour later. Another failed segment. Yeah. Relying on the head, it's never going to get that it can't get out of the head. It will believe till the end of fucking time it can. Yeah. You will not learn from evidence of everyone else around you. You will just think you're so unique, you're going to be the first one. Yeah. And then you're not the first one, you're one of the ones that die. The body does. Well, there is a solution. Hallelujah. We're in it. So I actually showed up in this world about 1993. I've been trying to get out of here since I was like 4 or 5 years old. And my whole attention was trying to get out of shit. And then there was a surrender, recognizing I'm never getting out of here. And peace became available. Yeah. And a lot of stuff showed up. So I've been in the state of never getting out of here for a long time now. Yeah. It was a bummer when I was fighting it, but it's very cool now. Yeah. Yeah.
Hey,
If
Paul, we
so,
have another hand.
yeah, yeah. No, fine. Come on, bring in Mike.
Next one's Mike, yeah.
Hey, Paul, thanks again, as always. I've heard you discuss like using 6 and 7 more than not using it more, but using 6 and 7 as kind of more of a centerpiece to like really looking at these character defects as they pop up. I just would like to hear your experience with that because I think the big book's pretty limited to like 2 paragraphs about what 6 and 7 is. And then, of course, it includes the prayer. But I'd like to hear your experience with that a little bit if you can.
Well, they're describing an action that can happen frequently or not, but they're describing an action. So the verb isn't there. So they give us the statement, the recognition of your condition. Instead of being convinced, it's you're entirely ready. So being convinced is a very profound requirement in recovery and also entirely ready. Yeah. Now, you don't want to rely on your head to know if you're entirely ready. Just wing it. You're entirely ready. Yeah. Okay. I'm entirely ready to have what? Something that you've noticed removed that you didn't used to notice before. Yeah. Now, I notice a lot in dreams. So in the morning, sometimes a lot of my dreams have the same theme. Yeah. And so I see that as like a Jungian sort of archetype. And when I wake up in the morning, I bring that to 6 and 7. And I say, hey, I'm entirely ready for this to be reconfigured because the dream and the meaning of it it's the same meaning, it's weird. So I ask that and I humbly ask this power to do it. Now, I think that humbly asking this power to do it has a lot of power because of the results AA has produced in me. So when I'm stating something, there's all that sense of something has done for me what I could not do for myself is there. So that's a powerful booster to the rocket, I feel. So I do 6 and 7. And then if I'm at an AA meeting and someone says something and it hits a pivotal point of alcoholism and I still feel a little trigger in there, I do it right there. I say, hey, I'm entirely ready for this. That's being expressed and felt here. I'm entirely ready for that to be reconfigured. So basically, it's sort of like if you had an old house and you had lots of pieces of gold, like statues and amulets and shit like that, and you weren't the posture or the image of the gold was fucking, you were over that, but the gold was still there. So you would bring it to a place where they melt it all down and all the way the gold was formed would be changed, but you'd get the gold. That to me is what 6 and 7 is. Yeah. It reclaims the value of life that may have been put into like a mental coffin or frozen or something. Yeah. By an old idea. It returns that energy, not to you, but as you. Yeah. So you're feeling more presence in a sense. Yeah. So I think as you go on in this process, 6 and 7 becomes very, very valuable, because mostly what gets revealed is what you're not, you know. The old patterns that used to defeat you get revealed. And now you have the eyes to see them, and you also have the direction of what to do when you see them, which is you don't do shit. You just do step 6 and 7. Yeah. You don't start working on everything. Maybe you'll be pointed to work on it later, but you do 6 and 7 first. That's the spirit of this program. It's not a self-reliant program, not a self-help program. It's recognizing self and bringing it to the program, I feel. So that's how I go about it with 6 and 7. Yeah. I just had the dream again the other night, or it had me, so to speak. So it's almost like there's the recycle bin, and my walking to the recycle bin is the step 6 and 7. And then I just put it in the recycle bin. I don't follow what happens to it, or I just have faith in it, and there you go. So 6 and 7 is because it says in a vision for us, this power is going to constantly reveal stuff to us. I think a lot of gets revealed is what you're not. You know, I think what it gets revealed is self, and it gets revealed to you, not as you, but to you, and you respond with the theme of AA and bring it to the steps, which is 6 and 7. And then you really very rarely get to 8 and 9 anymore. You don't have a list of amends because you haven't really stepped on many people's toes. And a 9, you're not going out and making amends because the mental idea didn't get that far. Yeah, you caught it before it acted out, and you put it into 6 and 7. So you really skip 8 and 9 a lot. You do. Not skipping it like as a trick, but it's not necessary. Yeah. I'm not out. I'm not planning the demise of other people's during the day. You know what I mean? I'm not like cooking. I don't have 4 pots on the grill, you know, with different resentments. I'm cooking and seasoning and shit. It's just much rather be in a state of outgrowing all that. Yeah, fucking I'm at peace. I'm an old dude. I'm not bothering anyone. Fucking no one cares what I'm doing, and I care less than that about what I'm doing. Yeah. Yeah. If I start cooking something up, like, you know, a bomb for my neighbor's house, I'll call you. I'll call Kurt or someone. This is what I just don't, you know? I mean, this is where it brought me. Yeah, the program is wasn't a lot of what you thought exciting, boring really out there. And then what I used to call the boring is the excitement now. It is. I'm excited about, we have this cactus that only blooms every few years, and it only lasts for a day or two. So I've just watched an incredible demonstration and a demise in 2 days. But I've watched it. Yeah, I went out there and had the chance to look at it and check it out. Some bees were coming out of it. They hit the gold mine. They had so much pollen they couldn't fly, basically. They had to call an Uber to pick them up. They were just like fucking, there was so much in this flower. It was mind-boggling. And you would think, why for only a day? Fucking why not? This is the glorious of this place. Yeah. They can be the best production you've ever seen in a very, very short film for like 5 seconds. Really? Yeah. Why would I want to bend it to my understanding? Why not just fucking surrender and let its understanding reveal to you? Yeah. And like we talked about before, something in our lives sees value in everything. I'd much rather hear the report of the day from there than the fucking grievance center or whatever. You know what I mean? Hating Jesus Christ. It seems like, wow, what's I don't know. I don't know. It's sort of like, hey, pissing your energy away or something. Pissing energy away for what? Nothing grows after you piss on it for a while. It doesn't, yeah. Yeah. So hey, anyone else?
I don't
Thanks,
see
Paul.
anything.
Yeah, so that's 6 and 7. It'll come to you during the day. If anything that you recognize as an old pattern, yeah, or whatever, a glitch, like in the Matrix. Remember when the cat walked across the threshold of the open door twice and they knew that the Matrix was regrouping for a second? That's like the pause in AA. The pause. There's a lot. What shows up, just bring the 6 and 7. Yeah. Yeah. It's like inviting an electrician in, and while you're living, it changes the wiring. Yeah. It just changes the wiring. Things work better. Yeah. So I'm a big believer in 6 and 7. And then some days nothing comes up. It's great. But when something comes up, you know what to do with it. Yeah. Yeah. Pass it on to 6 and 7.
It's funny because usually there's a tension in the body when something comes up, and it's usually a direct connection to what I'm thinking.
Well, there you go. Then bring that right away to 6 and
Yeah.
7. You want to
Yeah.
get it right out of the oven, Forensic is all right, but it only goes so far. You don't want to, have a forensic unit after it's been cooking for a couple. You might rather catch it while it's right before it's, been put in its little wrapper and shit. And then,
Sure.
yeah, yeah.
Great.
And
Thanks,
so I
man.
think what AA does. AA gives you the eyes to see stuff, and hopefully this understanding will give you a reason to see it as foreign to you.
Mm.
So much easier to drop it in the recycling when it's not yours. Yes, it's much easier. Yeah. So, all right, thanks, man. Anyone else? Well, I'm going to say goodbye to all our lovely people here. We've got Mike M. Always nice to see you, Mike. Thank you for coming in. Always lots of value comes from all of us here. We got 1978, Dana. Yeah. Rick Rowe, Toronto. Axel. John S., Florida. Mick E., the matriarch of Madeira. Roman Mueller. Walter. Kurt Zimmerman. Rico. Matt G., Cincinnati. Nice to see you. Joseph C. Oh, he's out and about in lovely France. Nice to see you, Joseph. Yeah, yeah. Mike M. J. Martin. Thank you, Martin. He's the SS Zen Bitslap is in good hands. Martin is navigating it through mostly calm waters, I'd say. But we need a navigator. Thank you, Martin, very much. Jay, as always, nice to see you, bro. Sing on. They're planning on a kirtan event maybe in Carolina, Saraswati. You're gonna have to go there, Jay, and play some music. Yeah. Roman, we got Jules on vocal. We got Saraswati. Yes, the we us. Paula, JC. I don't know if I know JC. Dennis, Sean. Yeah. I always like to look at Sean. He's always smiling like he ate the cat. It was good. I like that. Monica, not the eating the cat, but the smile. Monica P. Nice to see you, Monica. Rob S. Jeff P. down Southern Cal. I was in your neck of the woods, Jeff, for a little while. Redondo and Venice. Yeah. Rob S. Ben. Steve W. Steve Wing. Miss Volkman. Moto. E5. X21. That's cool. All right. I don't know if I missed you. If I did, I apologize, and just all the best wishes, literally. And remember, there is a solution. Yep. And yeah, rule 62, don't take yourself so seriously. Adios. See you. Bye-bye.